Hello bucket list buddies. Well, today is RV maintenance and well, just kind of maintenance, but we are going to talk about quick fixes, tips, and repairs. But specifically we're going to be talking about Schwintek slides, your slide outs, and how to maintain them and keep them in perfect working order. And we're also going to talk about what to do if you have a failure in your Schwintek slide. Now I've got 3 of those on my coach. And then I also have 2 hydraulic slides. We're not going to talk about the hydraulic slide maintenance today. We're just going to talk about the Schwintek. So if you have ever had questions about the Schwintek slides and how to maintain them and keep them working properly, and even if you've had some problems with them, how to get them fixed real easy and how to keep them synced up and things like that. And I'll answer all those questions right after this. Welcome back. So, Schwintek slides. Those are the slides with these metal tracks that are either silver or black that are on your slide outs, and they have a little motor on the top that actually one on each side that basically slides them out. So we're going to talk about how to do proper maintenance on them, and we're also going to talk about troubleshooting some errors or problems that you might have with your slide. And I apologize for all the background noise. Where I happen to be parked at a campground is right next to the highway, which it's kind of noisy, although at night it's kind of quiet, but during the day it's a little noisy. So apologize for all of that. I can't change that today. Before we get started, you're going to need a couple things. First of all, we're going to show you where and how to lubricate your Schwintek slides and where not to. A lot of people make this mistake and do this in the wrong place, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But you're going to need a can of, I get the CRC heavy duty silicone spray, and you'll notice I got a little, I don't know if you can see this here, a little hook in my little straw, and I'll show you why I do that on there when I apply this. And while we're up there, we're going to just take advantage of the time, and I'm going to use a 3-in-1 silicone, basically it's a rubber seal conditioner, so that seal that goes all around all your slides. You need to keep that moist and kind of, I don't want to say shiny, but clean at all the times. And if you start to see black marks on your slide, that means it's starting to stick or dry out. So you want to keep it lubricated with this. It'll keep it lasting a long, long time. I do this about every 6 months to my slides. And the same thing with the silicone spray for where I'm going to show you where you spray this. I do this about every 6 months. So let's crawl up on the ladder and I'll kind of show you what we're talking about and what we're going to be doing. Okay, Schwintek. I honestly don't know where the name came from. I could look that up, but that's not real important for this video. But this is the lower slide or part of the slide, and then at the top we have the upper piece. You can see up there. And inside the wall is the motor that drives these, and then there's a shaft that comes down from that motor all the way down the slide into a gear that is right inside the wall right here. And we need to make sure that there's a little lubricant on a couple areas. Now the common mistake everybody makes is they try to grease this track. You don't want to grease that. You want to keep this dry. This stays dry. You don't put any grease in there. Yes, I know that's counterintuitive, but the manufacturer and all the technicians I've ever talked to, they always say do not put grease on that slide. And their reasoning, they told me, was when you put grease or oil or anything on that, it starts to collect dirt and debris. And when you get dirt and debris on that and it gets on the gears, it mucks them all up, number one, but number two, it throws them out of sync. And we're going to talk about syncing the slide motors in a moment here. But first we're going to do this preventative maintenance and a little TLC on the seals. So I'm going to climb the ladder as safely as I can here. And I've mounted another camera right up there so we can take care of things up there. So let me get up on the ladder and we'll get started. Okay, you can't see me, but you can see all this, and this is where we're going to be working. But the first thing we're going to do, and as I mentioned before, I have the CRC heavy duty silicone, and you notice there's a little hook in the spray straw that I have in here. So what you're first going to do is you're going to grab the seal and roll it back, and you can kind of see there is the motor that drives the slide. Well, just beneath the motor we have a little a shim, and then it goes down to the gearbox. Again, we don't want to put silicone spray or any grease or oil on this track. We want to put it right above there inside where that shim is. It's kind of like a little bearing. So as you see the hook, instead of spraying straight, it sprays it right in there. Just do a little squirt like that, and that's all you really need to do to keep that lubricated. Now down in the bottom we have a little roller. You can do a little squirt on the roller, but don't put it on the track. So that roller just slides on the underneath side. You turn the camera down a little bit so you can see a little better. So here's the little roller, and you just put a little squirt on the nylon roller. It's just a nylon roller, and I'm just kind of putting it on the bearing of the roller, and that slides underneath this track. So it just goes right on there. And we have the same thing on the bottom, so we'll just put a little squirt there as well on the bottom track. And that's all there is to in maintaining and putting a little lubricant on this. So again, we don't want to put it on the track. We want to keep it just on the top of that little spline. I'll peel that back again. Right in there. Okay? So that's it. While we're up here, should you ever have a problem with your slide and you can't get it to close or open, and you need to release the motor so you can manually push the slide in and be on your way, all you simply do is open this piece of rubber, fold it back, and you see there's a screw. You take that screw out, and that basically holds the motor in. You take the screw out, and you flip this open, and you see the motor right here, and there's a little slot right up on the top of the motor, and all you do is slide the motor up. It only goes about a ½ inch, and it disengages these gears, and both on the top and the bottom. When it disengages those, and you do it on both sides, it allows the slide to go in manually, so you can push it in manually. Now, I'm not going to tease you. It is not easy to do. This particular slide is very high in the air, so you really couldn't do it. I would have to back my truck up to the side of the slide and get in the bed of the truck to push it in, and it still will be quite a bit of effort, but it could be done. But that's how you do it. So you just release this screw, you slide the motor up about a ½ inch, and it frees this gear to where you can manually slide that in. Again, you do this on both sides, and then it'll manually go in. Now, if you have a fault in the slides of the motors, it's not operating properly, you'll have to also go to the control box and see what the lights are flashing. That'll tell you what type of issue that you're having. And let me go show you that here in a little bit. Now, the second thing we're going to do while we're up here is we are going to clean and put a little lubricant, or conditioner I should say, not lubricant, but conditioner on these rubber seals. You want these seals to stay very supple and move around. So it's a simple application. You just simply spray it on, and then you take a rag and you just wipe it off. It's that simple. Now you do that all around the entire slide, both top bottom, sides, and that's all there is to it. Now I'm going to go around all the slides and put the sealer or conditioner on there, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some tips and things to do should you have a problem with your Schwintek slides. So let me go ahead and finish this. And okay, so I've gone around all the slides and I've conditioned all of the rubber seals and have sprayed the little silicone lubricant on the shim or little spline. And now we're going to talk about some little tricks or tips if you have a problem with your Schwintek slide and it's either hanging up on you or just doesn't move in or move out. Well, the first thing you should do when you have that issue is you need to locate your controller box. Now, each slide has got a control box. There are 2 motors on the slides, and those 2 motors need to be synchronized. More often than not, the problem is because your motors have fallen out of sync and they will not open or close or move properly. You might have one side going in faster than the other side or something like that. Should that happen, sometimes you're going to trip a fault in your controller and you need to reset the control box, or you need to bypass the control box to put it in manual mode to slide the slide open or closed. In most cases you want to close it before you get back on the road. So you need to locate those. They're usually fairly close to where your slides are, and in my case on this Grand Design Momentum 376 they are actually in the front where the generator is and where my batteries are located. So I'm going to spin the camera around here and I'm going to show this to you. Inside here, I'm going to get the camera up in there. There you can see the control boxes. Kind of see them right there. There's one for the starboard side and there's the other one for the port side. Now right now I don't have any flashing lights, but if you had flashing reds and greens, you just look on those control boxes and it'll tell you what those flashing lights represent, meaning what the fault is. Now to reset it, I'm going to get a little closer here. You can see there's a black arrow by that little opening, and that black arrow is the reset button, and there's instructions on the box on how to do this. But all you do is you tap that reset button 6 times, and on the 7th time you need to push and hold it until the lights change, and it'll give you a flashing code of what exactly is wrong. And you look just below on the grid there, if you can kind of see that. I apologize if it's not great, it's hard to reach in here. But it'll tell you exactly what the code is. But by resetting it and holding it on the 7th one, you're basically turning it off and putting it in manual mode, and that allows you to go back inside your unit, hit the switch, and the slide should come all the way in. If it does not, then you have some other issues and you have to release the motor like I showed you earlier and then manually push the slide in. But that's how you can get yourself out of a jam if you're out and about and you have a problem with one of these slides. This is not common. It does happen from time to time, but it doesn't happen often, so it should be okay. Alright, so know where your slide controllers are should you ever have an issue. Alright, so one of the final tips is, as I mentioned, if you're having trouble with your slide and it have one slide sliding out faster or more than the other one, your motors are out of sync, or if it kind of hangs up a little bit, your motors are out of sync. So if you're having that kind of a problem, let me show you how to solve that pretty quickly. If your motors are out of sync and it's hanging up a little bit or one side is sliding faster than the others, here's how you solve it. Now I brought my slide all the way in, as you can see, and we're going to show you how to do that. So my switch controller is right here behind the couch. I don't know if you can see in there. Let me slide the blanket out of the way. But I have my port and my starboard side switches right here, or I'm sorry, driver or passenger side. So the top one here is my passenger side or starboard. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the button, see it's in on top, out on the bottom, and I'm just going to slide the slide out just an inch or two. So you'll see I'll go out just an inch or two, and then I'm going to go back in. And I'm going to hold the button for 3 seconds or so until you hear both motors stop. Then I'm going to do that again. And you're going to do this 6 or 7 times. And you need to do this, and you'll see that the motors will come in and stop at the exact same time. And there, it's done. Go out again. Again, you're just going out an inch or two. You don't have to go far. Again, it's key to remember to hold that button down for a few seconds afterwards. Basically what you're doing is you're telling the controller you're all the way in, and the controller is trying to make sure that the motors sync up with the Hall effect sensors. And you're probably asking me, what is that? There are sensors in these motors. They're basically simple Hall sensors or Hall effect sensors. And those basically line up on a gear or the spline inside the motor. And when you hold that button in, you're basically telling the controller to say, hey, this is my closed position, synchronized to this, and then it takes basically a little image of that gear of how far away it is from the sensor, and it knows that is the exact dead center home position. That's kind of how a Hall effect sensor works. So what I just demonstrated, you do that several times, and that should sync up your motors and have no issues with your slides. I hope this helps everybody. I did have a problem with the same slide I was just working on ever since I got the unit. I'm not sure if something was installed wrong or they never synced them up at the factory, but I had a problem. So I had to figure out what was going on. Well, there are some great videos on YouTube. I'm going to put in a link below to those 2 videos from LCI or Lippert Components, who basically go over these same tips that I just gave you, and how to get your slide to come in should it fail, or how to synchronize them if they've fallen out of sync. And sorry, we're not doing any journeys or travels or things like that. This is pretty much just an RV maintenance and tips on how to fix things. Don't forget to hit that little like button, subscribe, and ring that little bell to let you know when I'm putting out another video. That's it for today. Thanks, and make it a great bucket list day. Goodbye.